So now on to the Flames tab. The Flames tab is all about reducing your flames more than adding to the flames. So let me tell you what I'm talking about here. This flame height is kind of misleading. You might think, okay, if I turn this to a really high value like this, then my flames should go way up in the air and should go totally crazy, like out of control. But watch what happens. We did increase the height of our flames, so to speak, but it's not out of control. And so the way to think about this is that this flame height is about dissipation. It's about reducing your flames. And what we see here is actually more like what the original heat field is. Now, interestingly enough, also notice how this kind of looks like a smoke simulation. It looks very much like what we had with steam. And so our heat, our flames, are really nothing much more than another smoke simulation. All we're doing to give it its flames sort of behavior is we are controlling the dissipation where this stuff cuts off. And we also do that through looking at the temperature field, and that's kind of how we determine where flames happen. So the flame height basically acts as a way of dissipation. The further you turn that value down, the more cooling that you're going to introduce. In other words, the more dissipation happens to the heat field. Now that's also controlled by this cooling field. And the cooling field is a way of determining when you're allowed to dissipate something. So let's go to our smoke object, and I'll go to this tab. Let's turn on temperature, see what it's doing. We have that, and let's go to our temperature tab right here and figure out the values that we're working with. So for this guide range, let's change this value until we start to see our white go away. And let's also turn this off. This is all kind of annoying. Do that, and then turn off multi-field. There we go. So now we can really see what's going on here. Okay, so as I said, we're trying to figure out where our temperature values are. So right now we're existing between about 0 and 3.5-ish. I'm going to leave this clipping down here just a little bit and look at the main portion of the flames. And so the main portion of the flames, or the main portion, of the temperature is clipping right around 3.5. So for this range, let's change this to 0 to 3.5. And now what this ramp is representing is when is this cooling effect, when is dissipation allowed to happen? If the temperature is 0, then we're on the left-hand side of this ramp, and we're at full effect. If we are at the very right-hand side of this ramp, which is 3.5, then we have this going on. So here's what I like to do. In the areas where it's really hot, I don't want any dissipation to happen. So the temperature is really hot down towards the base of the log. I don't want that going away. I only want this temperature or this cooling effect, this dissipation to happen once we're at about the midpoint in our values. So I like going and doing something a bit more like this, and then just have it really kind of kick up right, in this case, it's going to be right around our values that are closer to 0. So probably like 0 to about 0.5 is when this is happening. And so what that will do is it'll keep the base of our flames really intense, and then it'll die off rapidly as soon as the flames reach the temperature zones that are about 0 to 0.5. That's what I'm trying to achieve in my head with this. It's all just kind of approximating, so we'll obviously need to figure this out and dial it in. Let's change this to a value of 3 so that it's fairly aggressive in how it cools, and see what that does. Okay, and that gives us this, which in general, I like it. It's especially towards the behavior at the top. I like how it's cutting off that whole area. It's a little bit too high right now, so let's try changing this to maybe like 1.5, see what that does. Okay, and I like 1.5 just because it's a bit more aggressive in how it cuts off the top of the flames. Okay, so I like that. We are going to chill out these flames a little bit just via some other stuff that I have in mind. And so in the next video, let's take a look at using our static object as a means of influencing the velocity field.